Hey,
Morning,
everyone.
or good afternoon, rather.
I know, I almost said the same thing, Ben. It feels like it's still the very beginning of the day.
No.
It's dreary out there.
Yeah. It's a struggle.
Yeah, a little bit.
Especially if you had to get out in it and drive this morning.
It's no fun. Yeah.
No.
Alexandra? Are you there, Alexandra? Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Diana.
Summer, on distribution and access, will you be able to share the 3 work groups that I lead, the task, the form that I filled out?
Yep, I'll be able to share that in that meeting.
All right, thank you. I think it would be an awesome time to give some time for Meg to give us an update also.
Yep, that makes sense. Hello to everyone who just joined. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
Who's the admin for this? Are you administering this, Michelle?
I'm administering this call, Gloria.
Okay. I'm sitting in for Secretary Lopez.
Oh, great. Oh, fantastic. Thank you for being here.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Heather.
Good afternoon. Hi there.
Well, thank you to everyone who has joined so promptly. I've got the top of the hour right now, but we'll maybe give folks 1 minute to join before we jump into the agenda. So hold for 1 minute. Well, welcome everybody. I think we're getting close to the number that we usually expect around this time. So we'll know that folks will trickle in over the next few minutes, but I'm sure there's a lot to talk about today. So for the sake of time and making sure we let the CHHS team really cover everything that needs to be covered, I'll get us started. And with that, I will hand it over to Heather and Michelle, our chairs, to give any welcome remarks or comments you want to make.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I am Heather Breskin, the director of the Montgomery County Office of Food Systems Resilience and the one of the appointed members of the FSRC. My highly esteemed colleague Michelle is experiencing computer issues right now. And so we'll be back on momentarily. But in the meantime, on behalf of the two of us, I welcome all of you to this afternoon's call. We are at there's a lot of updates to share this time of year in the General Assembly session. And so while Ben and Annette will be shepherding us through today's agenda, I encourage all folks on the call to share updates that you have or questions or observations, because I think the real value of these gatherings are the collective information sharing and also processing what this means for our local and regional food systems. So Michelle, you have returned. So anything to add?
No, thanks, Heather. And, my computer is having a case of the Mondays, so we'll see if this continues or if it stabilizes. But thanks so much for taking over.
Perfect. Thank you both. And with that, we'll do a quick roll call. And this is a good moment to ask everybody, if you don't mind, to put your name and organization in the chat. That just helps us at MDEM keep track of who's on these meetings and make sure we're doing a good job with follow-up. And it looks like most of the voting members of this committee are here. So I'm just going to check on two people. Is there anyone from Senator Hester's office here? Okay, and Dr. Range, are you on the line? Okay, it looks like everybody else is here. So with that, we can move forward into some quick announcements. These are just the upcoming meetings. As always, you can find these on the FSRC website. We'll have another one of these meetings next week. After this one, I believe there's only 2 left. So which shows that we're really getting close to the end of things now. And I'm sure you'll get a sense of that when you hear the updates from CHHS. So we'll have the next of this meeting next Monday, same time. We'll have the next Environment and Production Committee meeting coming up on April 10th. And then we'll have the full FSRC meeting on April 17th. And I think we might be missing one on here actually for Distribution and Access, which is coming up later this week. So it's not written there, but just so folks know, there is also a meeting of the Distribution and Access Committee this Thursday, the 27th, from 1 to 2:30 p.m. And you can find that joining information on the FSRC website, or if you have issues, you can feel free to reach out to the FSRC email and we can help you. With that, again, this is how you join these meetings. You all already know that since you found your way here. With that, I will hand it over to Ben Yellen to give our usual updates. And I'll stop sharing, Ben, so you can share the slides you and Annette have put together.
Thank you so much, Summer, and good to be with everybody on this dreary Monday afternoon. A reminder of our resources, the tracking sheet, which we are updating sometimes multiple times a day, and our legislative tracking hearing calendar. Just kind of want to talk about where we are in the session. Last week was a bit of an eye of the hurricane situation. So crossover deadline was Monday. They raced to pass bills through their original chamber by that Monday deadline. On the floor of the House and Senate, not much else happened the rest of the week. It was mostly pro forma sessions. They're starting to have hearings in the opposite chamber. We'll talk about a couple of those hearings. The big item that we really want to focus on today, and I hope this is the basis for a collaborative discussion, is the budget. And with that in mind, I want to give a quick update on what is happening with both the budget bill and what's called the Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act, the BRFA. They're moving in tandem. We had an announcement at the end of last week that Governor Moore and legislative leaders had reached a tentative agreement on the fiscal year 2026 budget, which included approximately $2.5 billion in spending cuts and $1 billion of revenue increases. And we'll talk a little bit about what we can glean from what's in that compromise. House Appropriations Committee went through and moved the process forward. So they agreed to an updated version of both the budget and the BRFA. Those have now been sent to the House floor. It is my expectation that the House will start considering the budget during tomorrow's session. So it's moving. I want to note that the full text of the agreement has not been released. So Everything I know is just from public knowledge, from watching hearings, from reading news sources. By the time this does get to the House floor, we should have the text of second reading of the bill. It'll be open to amendment on the House floor. I don't expect that any amendments are going to pass since this is such a delicate agreement, but that's kind of the basics of where we are on the budget and BRFA. We have a lot more information on the revenue side than we do on the spending side. So I thought I'd just kind of share what we know about what's on the revenue side of the budget agreement. There will not be an increase in sales tax. We will not have any taxes on snack food or sugary beverages. Sorry, Michelle, I know you were hoping for that one. There was a proposal for a tax or a fee to be levied on online deliveries. That is not in the final agreement. What is in the final agreement, and things that might be relevant to the work that we all do, a 6% or normal sales tax on vending machine purchases, which is probably mostly snack foods and sodas. So it's we can tax those indirectly. The big ticket item is a 3% tax on data and IT services, and that's expected to raise up to $500 million in revenue. That was originally going to be a broader business-to-business tax. It's been pared down to this tax simply for data and IT services. The reason they did that, I think, is because it's done in a couple of other states, including Virginia. So it'll put us at less of a competitive disadvantage. A tax on short-term rentals, 3.5% on your Airbnbs. Higher tax brackets for people with very high incomes, $500,000, $1 million. And then there are a lot of cost-sharing responsibilities that are being handed down to the counties. And I know that's raised major concern among county governments. They are already strapped. One thing that's particularly controversial is that the counties are going to be expected to pay a portion of settlements to people who were unjustly sent to prison, which the counties are very angry about because they have no role in that process. It's the state that does the prosecuting. And incarcerated individuals generally go to state facilities once they've been convicted. So I know there's been a lot of pushback on that. So those are basically what the revenue sources are. This is a summary. There are more revenue sources, but just kind of to give you an idea of what we can glean. On the spending side, I know a couple of things. I know that the developmental disabilities community was happy that most of the funding that was due to be cut in the governor's original budget proposal has been restored. Like I said, the imposition on counties for teacher pensions, for these settlements among police departments, and on a couple of other items. But I really wanted to open the floor to kind of crowdsource what else we could find out about what's on the spending side. I've kind of heard rumors on various programs that are of interest to people here, but I'm hoping to the extent that you're able to share what you've heard about specific programs in the budget agreement, I think it would be valuable to open the floor on that. So I will stop for a second and see if anybody wants to chip in. Well, I guess everybody's very tight-lipped, which is fine. Eventually, they have to release the text of the bill, which means eventually I'm going to have to read it. And hopefully by the 31st, I'll be able to give you a better update on what's been included in the spending side. No update on the CEP pill. Oh, Steve, I see your hand is up.
Yes, and I see that Rachel Jones is on the call, but just a couple of updates related to the ag budget. SMATIC funding was restored by the House, and the subcommittee that considers it in the Senate is going to meet in 20 minutes. I assume that it will be the same action. I know some of you are interested in that. And then in terms of the program Open Space and funding for the Maryland Ag Land Preservation Foundation, There is going to be some reduction in funding over a 4-year period. But the good news is that the programs are not being basically destroyed for 4 years. They're going to be funded at a lower level. And I've talked with Michelle Cable, who's the director of MALF, and they're going to have a halfway decent funding program in fiscal 26, 30 million with state funds combining 2 years and another 12 million in county funds. So about a $42 million program next year. And then funding at a somewhat reasonable level thereafter. They're still trying to figure out what it means. But so not the end of the world on the program basis amount funding like it was feared a week or so ago.
Thank you for that update, Steve. I knew you'd come through for us. Anyone else have any knowledge they want or are able to share in terms of budget negotiations?
Ben, I'll just say me too to Steve. I would have shared some of the same. So nothing additional on top of that.
Thank you so much. Well, then with that, I'll just move on to regular bill updates. Again, really not much happened the rest of the week after we met on Monday. We did have a couple of hearings on our priority bills. So the bill that crossed over, House Bill 443, the baby food labeling requiring a statement about toxic heavy metals, passed the House unanimously, had its cross-chamber hearing in the Senate last week. As is customary when you have a bill that crosses over, there was just sponsor testimony, no opposition. So that looks to be moving. Same with the Anne Arundel County Property Tax Credit Bill. Passed overwhelmingly, both cross-filed versions of the bill. There was a hearing last week on the Senate bill, which crossed over to the House side. Again, no testimony in opposition or any questions from the committee, so that seems to be moving as well. We do have hearings coming up that have been scheduled on bills that passed their original chamber. So the FSRC bill, which I know we've talked about extensively in terms of definitions and reports, House Bill 9 has its Senate hearing coming up on the 25th, which is tomorrow. Let's see, have a hearing scheduled for the Procurement Department of Education bill for local food purchasing. That is Wednesday at 1 p.m. on the Senate side. Maryland Farms and Family Fund, the Senate bill has moved over to the House. That has a hearing scheduled on Wednesday. Maryland Agricultural Commission and Young Farmers bill also has a hearing on Wednesday. No hearing yet scheduled for the oyster shucking house and loan program. Other hearings scheduled. The Federal Commodity Supplemental Food Program bill, both sides have, or both chambers passed cross-filed versions of the bill. The House bill went to the Senate. It already got a favorable report in the Senate Finance Committee, so that bill is definitely moving in both chambers. Hearing on the House side tomorrow. The Family Investment Support Bill, the Child Support Bill as amended, that has a Senate hearing tomorrow. The MHEC bill on including a question about food insecurity on college aid processing, that has a hearing the 27th on Thursday. Property tax credit for Anne Arundel County supermarkets, that had passed the Senate. That has a hearing in the House side. We talked about that. That had a hearing in the House side last week. Hunger-free campus program has a hearing on the 26th, which is Wednesday. And then the Healthy Food Priority Area Study, which I know is of major interest to people in this group. Sorry, part of the slide got cut off here. So I'm going to just make sure I get the hearing date set. No hearing scheduled yet for that one. So I know that bill is of interest to many of you on the call. Just recapping legislation that did not make it prior to the crossover deadline and is most likely dead for the session. Food, forest, and foraging, property tax credit for urban agriculture, blue catfish bill, cottage food products. The CEP bill has not moved. Direct-to-consumer sale of raw milk, the sugary beverage distributor tax, as I mentioned in the budget portion, that did not move prior to the crossover deadline. And then late tracking one, the Prince George's County property tax credit for grocery stores bill also did not move. And then just, again, legislation that's been withdrawn, on-farm home processing license, withdrawn in both chambers. Food and milk product labeling has been withdrawn, and the bill to allow alcohol sales in chain stores, supermarkets, has been withdrawn as well. And that is the end of my update. I'm happy to take any questions. Could end up being a bit of a shorter meeting just because besides the budget, we just didn't see much movement last week. I assume we're going to see a lot of movement this week. So, but I will stop there and see if anybody has questions.
Ben, just going back to the budget, there's a hearing tomorrow, right? I guess when might this start to become more clear in terms of what's going on? What can folks expect if they don't want to wait until next Monday to get the update from you? Where can they sort of plug in to understand what's going on?
Great question. So I expect this to come to the House floor starting tomorrow. Once it comes to the House floor, the website will reveal the bill as amended. Might be a little confusing to follow because they're just going to post what the amendment was to the original budget proposal, which is in legislative mumbo jumbo. But if you know how to read that stuff and want to follow it, that will be posted as soon as the bill is under consideration. I expect it to be a pretty lengthy debate. It's a very controversial budget this year. I would not be surprised if the debate lasted 2 to 3 legislative days. It should be out of the House by the end of this week. I think there are going to be a lot of amendments proposed. And my expectation, as I said, is that those amendments are going to be voted down. Once the bill passes second reading in the House, they'll wait one more legislative day before it's considered under third reading, which is when a final passage will happen in the House. At that point, we'll have a reprinted bill with all of the included amendments on third reading before the House votes on the final version. And then it should go over to the Senate. So my expectation is that the Senate is going to consider the budget bill next week. And given that this was a bicameral agreement, it's possible that they can get through this whole process with the House and Senate being on the same page. It's also possible that chambers go in different directions on a couple of different issues, at which point there will need to be a conference committee. And that would probably happen toward the middle to end of next week. So that's the general timeline I can give. The first thing you'll want to read, besides the very best news sources from Annapolis, like the Baltimore Banner and Maryland Matters and the Daily Record. But the first thing you'll want to read from the source will be the amendments once the budget comes to the House floor tomorrow. Hope that helps, Michelle.
It does. Thanks, Ben. And I see we have some hands up.
Got some hands. Yep.
Serge, then Stephanie.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody, and good afternoon, Ben. I look forward to your presentation after the session is over for MAFRAC, and thanks for being willing to do that. My question is, it's pretty simple. I tried to look up this online, but really couldn't find anything. Is there any update on the status of funding for SMATIC? Did it survive, or has anything happened with the not the congressional delegation, but the Southern Maryland delegation being able to save funding for the institution? Thanks very much.
Thank you, Serge. I believe SMATIC funding has been restored from the original budget cuts on the proposal.
That's correct.
Yeah. So one small piece of good news.
Real good news, especially for them.
Dr. Lansing, I see your hand is up.
I just wanted to just make sure I was clear, because I know as a committee, we testified on the FSRC bill as well as the waste diversion surcharge bill. And so can you just go back, or I don't know if there was any others that we specifically testified for as a committee, maybe one other. If you could go back to those and be clear on if there's any more testimonies required, when those would be, just clarity on kind of the ones that we specifically supported.
Sure. So let me just go back. So the FSRC Healthy Food Priority Study Bill, House Bill 1434. No hearing has yet been scheduled on that. I don't believe, I'm just going to double check right now. It wasn't last time I checked this morning. It still said it was on first reading. Yeah, it's still on first reading in the Senate. So there's no opportunity.
There will be a hearing. I just do want to be clear still, but there will be a hearing in the coming weeks.
It's unclear. You can't know if there's going to be a hearing until it's scheduled. What sometimes happens is if there's not support in the other chamber for one reason or another, if the committee chair doesn't like the bill, they might just not hold a hearing. So I'm going to keep an eye out for it. I haven't heard one way or another, but all I can say now is that it's not scheduled.
Yeah, and then for
yeah,
oh, sorry. I was just going to jump in for HB 9, which is the FSRC definitions bill. I think that one has a hearing scheduled in the Senate for tomorrow. I believe that they are limiting the number of witnesses. I'm not sure if it's like sponsors only or, well, I guess that one didn't have a cross file, but it might be limited to like 2 witnesses or something to that effect. So we can definitely follow up with some info on that, but yeah, that's just in the effort to help things move quickly. There may not end up being, I mean, it's tomorrow anyway, but there probably wouldn't really have been an opportunity to testify. And then the other thing, like Ben said, we won't necessarily know for everything else. The things are probably going to get scheduled like very last minute as they're trying to move a lot of stuff. But sorry for interrupting, Ben. Please go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, so thanks, Anne, for just putting this great point in the chat. If you have bills that have diverged, so if one version of a bill has been amended significantly in a chamber, then you'll have a more extensive hearing in the opposite chamber. In the absence of that, if the bill hasn't changed significantly, especially if there is a cross file, it's very frequently only sponsor only, or they'll allow one testimony in support, or one witness in support, one witness in opposition, 2 in support, 2 in opposition, something like that. And I'm sorry, Dr. Lansing, what was the other bill that you had mentioned? The on-farm.
The solid waste diversion.
Yeah. So yes, they had. Let me just double check again. This is another one where no hearing had been scheduled when I last checked. That is still the case. So it is on first reading in Education, Energy, and the Environment, and also Budget and Taxation. So if it is heard in the Senate, it'll be in front of 2 committees of jurisdiction. But again, it has not yet been scheduled.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Other questions, comments? Intel?
Thank you, Ben, for all of your research and education of us of where everything is. Just kind of thinking about as this gathering moving forward, we will have one more Monday meeting and then a break and then a debrief on Monday the 14th. So I think this is always a great opportunity to both reflect on the final outcomes, that session on the 14th, when we can see what will the permanent impacts be of how this process turned out, and then also think collectively about what resources were helpful. Obviously, these processes change every year, so we can only reflect so much on what happened looking towards the future with assumptions that things will stay the same. But just, it's a great opportunity to hear from all of you on how these gatherings have, and this effort overall by the FSRC has been helpful to you, your organizations, your agencies, to navigate the General Assembly process. So as we go through the next couple of weeks, just encouraging everybody to reflect on that and come with comments, feedback, suggestions when we do our end of session wrap up in a few weeks. And in the meantime, I know that all of us, especially Michelle and I, Summer and Ben, welcome any offline input or updates that you have to help equip us for next Monday's meeting. Or if there are, in addition to all the great resources that Ben shared, some sources of information that you have found that have been helpful to you. I know that there are a number of coalition groups that are still continuing to meet around a few of these bills. So if you participate in those meetings and want to report back, we always welcome, even if things aren't going to cross the finish line, insight as to what might breed success in future years for those priorities. Great. Michelle, any additional action items or?
No, thanks for covering it so well, Heather, and Ben, thanks for all of your hard work and keeping us informed. And I think I pass over to Summer for any wrap-up items.
That's really it. I mean, I think Heather summed it up super well. We got a few more of these. We'll see how things shake out, and don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Ben if anything comes up in the meantime that you have questions about. So thank you everyone for being here. We really appreciate your time.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.